Lads, there are 4 key and very important elements, I believe, to having a successful phase, whether that be a fat loss phase, any phase that you are in right now. We've got ourselves an Americano, a hot Americano, and we are en route home from another job. There's 4 key elements to doing it successfully and doing it right. And those 4 elements, I believe, are enjoyment, sustainability, accountability, adherence, or adherability, I say a lot of the time. But without them in place, no plan, no perfect plan is going to work. And they're the 4 key pillars, I believe, to building the perfect plan, right? We're not going to talk about what's the best way to go about training, what's the best way to go about nutrition in terms of numbers and everything today, you know, what's the perfect thing, because every single person is going to be different. But we're going to speak about all those 4 factors that I just spoke about. And again, welcome back to, I suppose you could say, episode 2 of Car Talk, where I give you a brain dump on different topics that I like talking about. And if you're new around here, we are under 10 weeks out from my first ever bodybuilding show, and we are daily vlogging. We're doing videos on the daily. A brand new video goes live here every single day. And I appreciate every single one of you that is following along, every single one of you that is new around here. If you are new, you've just clicked on for the very first time, do stay around, drop us a like, hit that subscribe button. I'm hoping that you can take some value from the channel, as always. But let's get into it. It's a very rainy day down here in southwest sunny Ireland. That's not sunny, but rainy. We did have a nice bit of weather there the last couple of weeks. But the first one, the most important of them all, why I said number 1, is enjoyment, okay? The plan itself needs to be enjoyable. You need to enjoy every single part of it. Now, I know there will be some times, you know, especially as you might get into the extremes of maybe a diet, maybe you get into the extremes of a gaining phase, you mightn't enjoy it as much, right? With what we do in fitness, physique development, there's uncomfortability that comes with it all. But typically that comes at the end of a phase that you might be going into, or end of a phase that you're finishing out, I should say. Whether that is you're stuffed all the time or you're starving all the time, to give you an example. But for the most part, the way that everything is set up needs to be enjoyable across the board for you to actually be able to stick it out, and for you to actually be able to get out of that phase, get out of that plan that you're on, exactly what you want to get out of it. You know, that kind of way? Enjoyment is definitely the one thing that needs to be there first and foremost before we look at anything else, because it's the one thing I look at and I'm thinking, why not? Do you know, like, why not enjoy every single thing that I'm doing here? Why not enjoy the training setup? You know, because when I'm setting someone up as a client, you know, I'm telling them, I said, look, I'm getting the feedback off you now this week. I'm like, do you enjoy every single exercise that we're doing here? They might come back and say, look, these squats are not the most enjoyable thing, but that's what a lot of people are going to say, you know. For the most part, you need to be enjoying pretty much every exercise. I know there's going to be some exercises that you're going to like, some exercises that you're not really necessarily going to like, but you still know yourself, like, the overall plan is enjoyable. Same thing goes for our nutrition. You know, the meal plan that we set up needs to be a meal plan that you're looking at and thinking, everything on here is beautiful. You know, it doesn't even feel like I'm on a structured meal plan, you could say. It's just I'm eating foods that I enjoy and it's set up in line with my goals. You know, that kind of way. Same goes for everything that we do. Why? Because it's going to allow us to continue doing it for as long as we need to do it for. The second thing after that as well is going to be sustainability, right? Biggest mistake that we all make and have made multiple times in the past, for me personally, again, a big reason why, you know, I haven't made as much progress probably as I would have liked over my time getting into the gym, getting into physique development, is going to be the sustainability of it. A big thing that I notice as well when someone starts a plan is they're looking at especially the food and they're thinking, why am I eating all this food? You know, I'm looking to lose fat. I said, look, you probably weren't eating this amount of calories to gain the amount of body fat that you gained to come to me in the first place now to try and lose it. It's just because we're eating better foods, you know, we're making better choices in terms of the quality of food that we're eating, which typically does mean the amount of food that's in front of you does look more, because it's not as shitty food, it's not as, you know, dense in calories. It's something that we need to adjust to, and you're going to have to just trust me on it for this week. And lo and behold, their appetite does start picking up, they start getting more hungry, and they're enjoying every single meal that's on plan. And what that plan is, it's sustainable. It's not going straight in, 0 carb, 0 fat, just eating foods that they don't like at all. It's a plan that's set up with all foods they like, foods they enjoy, and we're not dealing with hunger, we're not dealing with cravings for majority of any phase that we're ever in. Now, given going to the extremes, as I said, when we do have to push things a little bit more, the term sustainability, you know, it will come down that small little bit, you know. And when I say sustainability, it's like, right, the position that we're in right now, bud, we're coming to the end of this phase, we're coming to the end of your diet, right? Fat loss is nearly wrapped up. What we're doing right now may be not sustainable for 8 weeks, but we've only got another 3 weeks here. We've only got another 4 weeks here to do it. So it is going to be sustainable for those next couple of weeks. You know, that kind of way. But biggest mistake in terms of sustainability and why people fall off is because that sustainability element isn't there from the very beginning, and you've gone way too far. You know, you've skipped steps 1 to 10 of losing the weight that needs to be lost before you reach that point of like feeling a little bit unsustainable. So that's a big thing you need to take a look at as well when setting up a plan. All right, sustainability, and that factor being there. Yes, you might think things will be slower, but I'm telling you now, a man or a woman that has a sustainable plan from the get-go is going to be still doing what they need to do to lose, gain, whatever case it is that they're in, a lot longer than the lad, than the girl who is going straight in, unsustainable, who's going to fall off track very, very fast. Right? They might speed up their progress a little bit for the first couple of weeks, but watch what happens when you have that sustainable plan and they're looking at you and they're asking you, like, how are you still doing it? Because it's been sustainable all along. You know what I mean? Sustainability, huge, huge part of it. And then we get into the adherence factor, okay? Adherence is, again, very like sustainability. It's going to be a plan that we can adhere to. Now, a big part of this, I think, is setting the plan up. Just like sustainability, just like enjoyment factor of it, is a plan that, you know, works around your lifestyle. Again, my plan and your plan aren't going to be adhered to in the same way. Again, I've been doing it for X amount of years, you've been doing it for X amount of years, maybe X amount of months. You mightn't be doing it as long as me, you might be doing it a lot longer than me. Your ability to adhere to a plan is going to be completely different to mine. Everyone's going to be, so it needs to be set up, again, individually for you. A big thing with clients is we look at, okay, what's your daily routine looking like? Then we need to build the nutrition plan around your daily routine so that you go from the start of the day to the end of the day nailing your food. And we take it one day at a time. As I always say, lads, one day at a time with everything that we're doing here in terms of physique development, to have all these factors in place, the enjoyment, the sustainability, the adherence, the accountability, one day at a time. Okay, that's the biggest piece of advice I've been able to give over the last while that I've put in my life, and it's just made everything just fucking from here to here in terms of, as I said, enjoyment all the way down the list. So we look at the adherence factor. Now again, the adherence factor does come down to having discipline, okay? Motivation isn't always going to be there, right? Am I always motivated to go and prep meals? Right now, yeah, fair enough, I am. Like, I'm absolutely like fired up. And that's there. But is that motivation going to be there consistently throughout? Absolutely not. It's where discipline, it's where willpower comes into play. Again, there is elements of experience, but you need to have that willpower there before, again, you have the motivation. All right? You need to adhere to a plan, see results from that plan for that motivation to come through, because you see results coming from it and you're like, fuck. You know, this is what happens when I stick it out for a couple of weeks and I adhere to the plan to a T for as long as I need to adhere to it to start seeing results. You know what I mean? So that's where the adherence factor comes in, and that's why having it set up in a way where you can adhere to it, because it's perfect, set up perfectly for your daily routine. You know, like, there's no point in me giving you 6 meals a day if you only have time to eat 4. You're going to be missing meals, you're going to be messing up with the food plan. It'll be more realistic for me to be giving you a food plan where we have 4 meals throughout the day, and it sits in perfectly for the routine and for the setup that you have every single day. You know, that kind of way? So that we can go from the start of the day till the very end of the day having been successful with every factor to do with the plan, whether that's our training, our cardio, our step count every single day, our nutrition plan, everything that needs to get done. All right. And the final part of the puzzle then is the accountability, right? You need accountability, and I obviously am the accountability for all my clients. I am the accountability for them to have to show up every single week and to have someone to answer to. When we have a bad day, you need someone to answer to, all right? It's so easy for us to come home, all right? We're not around anyone. The day of work is done. We might have the gym done, all right? Things are, you know, not in a great place. You know, you might have just had a fight with the missus. You might have just had a shitty day at work. The boss is abusing you or giving out to you, whatever you want to say. And you're not arsed. You're tired. You're coming home. You're like, nah, I'm not going to bother getting that cardio session done that I need to get done this evening. Steps? Nah. I have 3,000 steps left to do. What's the point? You know what I mean? Food, I'm just going to grab a chipper. I'm going to grab a takeaway on the way home. What's that going to lead to is just, again, rolling into the next day, because motivation is just all of a sudden gone. You don't have anyone to answer to, so again, it's easier for you to just have that ease for yourself there with the easy, shitty food options, because that's what we lean into. You know, we lean into those comforts when in a position of like fight or flight, and like the body is kind of like drained from it all because we haven't all those other elements in place. You know what I mean? Having that accountability there is going to be probably the biggest dictator of whether you get in shape or not this year. You know, I'm not going to lie to you, it probably is, because you have someone to show up to every single week. And when you have someone to show up to, it's a lot harder to miss what you need to do, because you have, you know, someone to answer to there every single week. You have someone to check in with. You know, my lads have to check in with me on the given day that they're checking in. They need to have their stuff done that needed to get done for the week, you know, and how much more likelihood is there of you getting your cardio done for the week, you nailing your food for the week, knowing that you need to send check-in photos, you need to have all your updates done for someone externally other than yourself. Only having yourself to answer to is a big, big mistake. And it's a mistake that's going to cost you, more than likely, for the majority of us, a lot of time in terms of making progress, whether that be fat loss, building muscle even. Do not neglect the fact that accountability is king when it comes to making progress and fast tracking your results. You know, think about the amount of muscle that I probably would have built if I had, you know, myself in order in terms of accountability from day one, you know, that kind of way, and not made the mistakes, because I've been in the shoes that all my clients have been in, and the relatability is there. That's why they know they can have that accountability there, is because someone who's trying to get very lean, right? I've been in their shoes. I know how it feels. I know exactly how it feels and what way to approach things, what to do, and how we're going to dictate, you know, what's our next steps from here, what actions are we going to put in place, you know, to maybe overcome these feelings and not lean into the comforts when we could just do this instead of that and just get through it, you know, and not make those stupid decisions because we're in fight or flight mode. You know, we're stressed to the max, we haven't slept that much, our decision making is all over the place, and again, we're just not bothered because we've no one to answer to. I've been there, you know what I mean, and I know how it feels when you do make the mistake, when you do mess up on food plan. Trying to get back on it is a lot harder than staying on it. You know what I mean? Trying to get back on track is a lot bloody harder than staying on track. You know that kind of way? Yeah, you're going to get that 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 hours of satisfaction from biting into that burger. But think of the feeling you're going to get after it. It's just not worth it. And if that, you know, little slip up turns into a weekend, it turns into a full week long, think about how hard it is going to be to get back on it. And what happens in most cases there is that switch has been flipped again, and we're back into our old ways, slowly building those bad habits back into it, to our daily routine. 1 month, 2 months, 6 months down the line, we're back to square one because we've just let those habits happen. And you know how quick time goes by. It's absolutely mental. My coffee is probably cold. So having that accountability factor, lads, is going to be kingpin to bring all these other elements into it and allow yourself to see results a lot faster than if none of these elements were in place. As I said, there's going to be different times, usually at the end of a certain phase that you're in, you know, where uncomfortable levels of what you're doing might be quite high, but you've got all these elements in play. It's going to make it that bit more manageable. You're going to have that bit more of an understanding that, okay, I'm not going to be here for long, but it's a need-must basis to get the result out of what I want to get out, what I'm currently doing here, what I've put the work in over the last however many weeks, however many months to do. So stick it out. Make sure, if it is a case of these elements not being in your plan at the moment, take a step back, have a look, right, where does these need to fall in play? Okay, is this whole plan enjoyable across the board? Ask yourself. Is this sustainable to the fact that I could stay on this exact plan for as long as I need to stay on it for? Am I being adherent, and is this plan set up for me to just absolutely nail it from one end of the day to the other, from start of the week to the end of the week? And ask yourself, like, if you don't have that accountability right now, you know, how much progress are you leaving on the table every single week or every single month from little mistakes you're making here or there, days, weeks, weekends where you're just, you know, not showing up, you're making excuses, you've no one to answer to? Ask yourself how much of them is there and work out how much progress you're leaving on the table for yourself every single week. It's just some food for thought again while I'm flying home this evening. I think it's a big part of seeing results, getting the fastest results from your current plan. As I said, the perfect plan can be right in front of you, but it might not be the perfect plan that's going to be enjoyable for you, sustainable for you, adherable for you, and a plan that you're going to be obviously accountable to as well. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below on everything I said there. I hope you're having a lovely day, whatever you're getting up to. Hopefully it got you through, as always, a little cardio session potentially. Drop the video a like, comment down below if there's any specific topics you want me to talk about on Car Talk, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you tomorrow.